Gareth, as is tradition, what have you been up to this week, my man?
Well, I had a lovely event with Frank Warren, or sorry, Warren Boxing Management, not Frank Warren, Warren Boxing Management at the York Hall.
Mm.
Albanian invasion, 800 Albanians in the York Hall Bethnal Green. You can imagine what that was like.
Oh,
Big heavyweight, Nelson Husa, um, signaling himself, beating Bracamonte, who's fought Dave Allen, Fraser Clark, and others in a 2-round knockout. He's a 40-year-old, but he's 40 years young. I think it was his 19th victory with about 17 knockouts. That was really good fun on Friday night with Dev Sani and a couple of others. Umar Ahmed of Box Nation. Always fun to do those little shows, and always fun to be in the East End. Very interesting night on Fight Night on talkSPORT on Saturday night. Nikisa Bidarian on. Uh,
oh,
and speaking to, we'll go over that if you like, about the Jake Paul Mike Tyson event, and also that they are serious about fighting Saul Canelo Alvarez, which I think is fascinating. I think that whole journey, that whole narrative is very interesting at the moment, given what it's drawing out with Artur Beterbiev calling him out and Daniel
mm.
Dubois calling Jake Paul out. And I went for a lunch with Charlie Sims, Tony Sims, and Conor Benn as well in
You've
the
been
week.
a busy boy.
Yeah, but they're launching fight nights. It's called Origins, the first one, December the
Yeah.
14th. May end up on talkSPORT, may end up presenting it. That was very interesting as well. Great to catch up with Conor Benn. I think as we go out, it's almost at the limit of whether UK anti-doping can appeal the lifted suspension on him. So a lot going on, and in amongst all of that, still doing loads of interviews about Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, and people fascinated by the debates. And it's really been quite a divisive event. I know we picked the bones over it last week, but it's been a busy old week. How about you?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off the Jake Paul thing, you're right. I think the conversation is still ongoing. I think I've seen so many people make videos. I've seen so many people in the sport of boxing, out of the sport of boxing, still talking about it. So it definitely pushed the needle. I think everyone that got the numbers they wanted, whether it be yourself doing things for talkSPORT. I'm sure you wrote articles for the Telegraph. So everyone done well out of it. So I think people were asking the question a couple of weeks ago or last week, was it bad for boxing? The answer is no. The main event wasn't great, but the whole event as a whole, I think was fantastic for boxing. So no qualms here. As you guys know, last week I filmed from New York. I was there to launch the Ade and Ariel show, or the Ariel and Ade show. There's still a debate, by the way, about that. um, that
Oh,
was
two small planetary egos
this
colliding
is it.
there
This
then.
is it. I'm telling you, this is it. But that was fun. That was fun to be out there
Let me
and
just
do that.
work it out. Wait.
Go on.
Addy and Ariel show, the Ariel and I think it works better as the Ariel and Addy
You
show.
know what? It probably does
It
actually. When
trips
I
off
think
the
that
tongue a bit easier, but that's
Ariel and
not
Ade, no,
that,
that's okay.
best last. Best comes last, Addy. Best
That's
comes last.
I'll take that. I'll take that. I mean, I think you've been to. Obviously they've moved studios, Ariel Hawani, since, but I know you've been to a studio very similar. And it's nice to see someone have a setup like that. It was actually quite interesting to sort of go behind the scenes and see how it all works on that show. So that was
Yeah,
nice.
that was good fun. The dartboard was there still or not?
Dartboard wasn't there. No,
Oh, so you didn't get the pleasure of beating him at
no,
darts, which I did.
gutted. I was so upset because I was ready because I've got a dartboard in my flat. So I've been practicing thinking when I get there, you're done. And
Because he thinks he can
he
play.
thinks he's the greatest. And I'm like, one
He thinks
second.
he's a flaming darts player.
It's crazy. And I was like, what? He just throws it and it lands. And wherever it lands, he's happy to get the score. But no, so I wasn't there for that, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, it was
Three
fun.
days in New York.
No, less than that. I'd say 40 hours in New York.
Right. Okay.
40 hours. It was in and out. So bit of jet lag, but it's all good, right? I mean, first world problems. So it was good to do that. Came back, stayed up and watched the Harlem Eubank fight, which I wish I didn't because I'm trying to remove those minutes from my brain. Cal come out. This is interesting, actually. I'll get your take on this and said 1.7 million people tuned in. Which, look, if that number is true, it's great because free to air boxing, I think, is the way in which I fell in love with the sport. But I just don't believe that number. 1.7 million. It's not. I'm not
It's a
sure about
big
that.
number,
It's a
but they
huge
regularly get
number.
they regularly get over
100.
500,000.
Yeah.
But that's a big number because Huey Fury used to do 900 and a million. Tyson Fury, when he was on there, did over 1 million for a couple of fights.
Mm.
But that is a big number. That is a very, very big number. People maybe thought it was Chris Eubank fighting then.
Yeah, yeah, maybe because they're quite smart with the marketing because they always say Eubank. They never really say the first name,
Yeah.
Harlem. I mean, Harlem's growing in popularity himself, but they always say Eubank versus instead of Harlem Eubank versus. You mentioned Conor Benn there. Obviously, look, I think we are now a couple of days away from the point where UKAD and the British Boxing Board of Control have to kind of just let it go and can't appeal. Do you any news as to what's going on with Conor and Chris Eubank? That is.
Yeah, big news, even
Oh,
though it's not absolutely confirmed. But he talked to me about Mario Barrios as a
okay.
potential opponent and going for the WBC world title. Obviously, that was upgraded to a full world title against Abel Ramos on the undercard of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. He's
Hmm.
interested in that fight. He's got a very high ranking with the WBC anyway. But my understanding from speaking to Tony Sims and Charlie Sims, obviously, I said he was launching Huge Boxing, it's called, with this first event Origins on December the 14th, 13th, sorry, Friday
That's
the
your. Is that
13th.
your call?
York Hall, December
Right.
the 13th, Friday the 13th, is that they're going to go for Chris Eubank first. And my understanding is they're going to try and do the two biggest stadiums in the UK, which take boxing, and that's Wembley and Spurs right now.
Mm.
And they're going to do a two-fight deal for 2025. So it's going to be in the UK, not Riyadh season. Whether it will be sponsored by Riyadh season, we don't really know, but that's the intention. And if we assume that in 48 hours, no further appeals been made by UKAD, then we're looking at Benn and Eubank 3 and 4 if you do it familially, and they're trying to get. Chris is trying to reconcile with his father at the moment, Chris Eubank with Eubank Senior, and Nigel Benn has said he's going to be, or Conor Benn told me Nigel will be in his corner, and so we'll have the two fathers in the corners as well. So it's going to be a big event if it goes ahead, and it'll be around middleweight.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't imagine Chris willing or wanting at this age now to even try and get below 160. I just can't see how he's going to do it. And why would he want to do it? He doesn't need to anymore. He's in a strong position in this one. What I find fascinating about what you just said there was the Barrios thing as well. Obviously, Barrios, 147 pounder. So it's kind of basically saying he's going to go to middleweight and then go back down to 147. I find it quite dangerous. I mean, we saw Kell Brook do this when he fought Gennady Golovkin, then try and kill himself to make 147 to fight Errol Spence, and his body just couldn't get there anymore. He couldn't do it, and it actually became quite dangerous. So they're going to need to look at what they want to do. I can understand that Connor's now chomping at the bit and he just wants to fight. But I mean, where are you going to land? Are you now a middleweight? Are you a light middleweight? Are you 147? Like, what is the landscape for you? Like, what do you want to be, a world champion, or do you want the most money? Because I actually think he could beat Barrios. I'm not too convinced about Barrios, but the bigger fight, the bigger money is at 160. So I guess decisions for Conor Benn.
Well, I mean, I think that the Chris Eubank fight is there at 160. Um, but I think I'm just looking here, Eddie. The rankings at the moment, Conor Benn is number 2 with the WBC, number
Mm,
2 with the WBA, and 7 and 4 with WBO and IBF. So he's very close to having a world title fight. He's not going to take on Jaron Ennis
no.
because he is fighting Virgil Ortiz, isn't he?
Yep.
55 fights between them undefeated. Can't wait for that one. Terence Crawford's champion in recess for the WBC. So if it doesn't work out with Chris Eubank, then obviously that world title fight is there, but they're not going to hang around now because I think they feel that he's lost. He's lost a lot of time, and I think they just want to get back to, getting him in the biggest fights possible. He's itching and hungry. He had
Mm,
those two fights at light middleweight on the Texas Commission, didn't he?
you did.
Or maybe one was Nevada as well, but He really needs to get his act together and get fighting. I think we'll get the Eubank fight. So big,
Yeah, no,
it's enormous,
I agreed. It's enormous,
whether
and
you like it or not.
yeah, absolutely. And even if you don't like it, you're going to tune in.
Yeah,
And if you don't
exactly.
like it, you're going to write about it and you're going to give it more of a push without even realizing you're doing it. So I think it's good for British boxing. I think it's good as well. And you mentioned this also that it could happen over here. Obviously, look, these fights are big, and Riyadh season does give them that extra push, if you like, because as you know, it's events all week leading up to the fight, as opposed to just turning up on Saturday. But if it happens over here, it does do, I think, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we need big fights over here. We saw that with AJ Dubois, so it'd be good if it happens over here with the support of Riyadh season, so it does get a bit of an extra financial push. Just before we end this section, again, you said you spoke to Nikisa. There's been a lot of talk, and I know MVP released a statement on Monday, hitting back at people that suggested the Tyson fight was rigged. I don't know if you asked Nikisha about it. If you did he say anything about that? Like having to push back on all the people that are saying Tyson pulled these punches and Jake pulled these punches and all the stuff that's going on around that?
Well, it was myself and Adam Catterall, and I was I wanted to do full disclosure that I think and I did that I get great access to Logan, Jake, and Nikisa Bedarian when I'm around them.
This is
And
true. This is true. I can concur with that.
yeah, but Adam wanted to know, why is Jake Paul? We didn't talk about the veracity of the fight itself with Mike Tyson. I think Mike just displayed how old he is and that he hasn't got enough mobility left. I don't think there's any doubt about he was trying his best. And Jake Paul probably eased up a little bit, realizing it was a lose-lose if he knocked out an old man
Mm,
with legendary status. I don't think that anything was choreographed. I mean, myself and Spencer Oliver, who were there watching it for talkSPORT at the time, both felt that Jake was bricking himself for the first round, believe it or not, and was on his bike a little bit, but then realised that Mike isn't what he was, and he isn't. And grandfather time waits for no one, as I coined with you last week. But we didn't go into whether we believed the fight was rigged or not. What we did go into, and Adam had a fulsome argument with, not argument, but discussion, because I think they will do the Canelo fight. I think it's worth $300 million. I think Canelo will get 150 million. They'll make a ton of money, and I think it will go ahead at cruiserweight, 200 pounds. And I really do think that fight will happen, and it could potentially happen next year.
okay.
I can just see it. I remember when Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fought, I tried to discuss with both parties about it happening. And I remember Conor McGregor's agent saying initially, "Oh no, we won't do that." But when I put it to Conor McGregor on television at BT Sport at the time, he said, "Gareth, show me the money." And John Kavanagh, his coach, said exactly the same. And within a few months, that fight was done. And I was on stage with Floyd Mayweather hosting him in Birmingham when Al Ferran did an impersonation of Conor McGregor in that fight. I'm not saying I helped to make the fight, definitely, because I kept suggesting it. But when they got their heads together, they decided they would do it. And I can see this happening just with a promoter's hat on. I can see it happening because I can't see Canelo saying no to the offer of that much money and what is a win-win for him. And it could be the end game for Jake Paul. And we had that discussion with Nikisa. And Adam was like, how on earth would any commission sanction it? And Nikisa's argument was they sanctioned McGregor against Mayweather. So why wouldn't they sanction a super middleweight against a cruiserweight? Look, you can't see anything other than a Canelo victory in that fight. But Jake Paul has got the courage and the cojones, the two expressions I've used about him, or two adjectives for a long time. He'll do it.
Okay. On that, it's funny because I said I wanted to break, but now you've brought this up now, so let's go for a couple more minutes because this is a good
I
talking
love
point.
your opinion on it.
This is a good talking point. It's funny because I spoke to Eddie Hearn and I asked exactly that same question. Like, do you think we could see it? Obviously, Eddie Hearn has promoted Canelo, he knows him well. And he said yes. He also said yes because the money's too big and Canelo obviously wants his money. My thing was, I think I said in pushback to it, I said Jake wouldn't fight Canelo. And the reason I said that is because Jake would get seriously hurt in that fight. This isn't like any other fight he's actually had. Like Canelo would hurt him. The other people that he's fought don't possess anything like the skill or power
No,
or
or the youth.
the youth of what Canelo
It's the
would do
youth,
to him.
Eddie, is
Yeah.
the key. The
And
youth.
Jake would
Yeah.
sell that fight and he would wind up Canelo. And look, if he's got the kahunas for it, credit to the man. I'm not gonna, but that's a fight where the outcome isn't good. It's not good. We're talking, and look, if you're saying potentially next year, and a few people have said this, by the way, then you're talking someone that is still a pound for pound fighter.
I
Like
know.
Canelo's no worse than number 6 or 7.
I know. I know.
He
Well,
walks around at 200 pounds.
listen,
Oh
even
my Lord.
even Floyd Mayweather toyed with Conor McGregor for 4 rounds. And he wasn't a
He's
puncher,
not a puncher. He's
and he
not a
was close
puncher.
to 40 as well.
Yeah, he's
So
not a puncher.
it feels a bit stretched too far. I think there's a
I
Conor
don't think
McGregor
it is a
fight for
stretch too
him.
far.
Um,
I'm with you now. I don't think it is a stretch too far. I
no,
think
it
the
will
money,
happen.
money
When
talks.
in fight sports, when you know that a fight between two people will make enormous amounts of money, it will happen because that's what it's a sport, but more than a sport, it's a business. And when it
And
comes to business,
we're talking
yeah,
big business. We're talking
yeah,
very, very
yeah,
big
yeah,
business.
yeah,
All right, you're listening to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Still to come, we are going to look ahead to a big domestic fight this weekend. That's between Sonny Edwards and Galal Yafai. We'll also discuss Matchroom's newest recruit, Pat Brown, and what impact he could make to the pro game. But up next, we're less than 4 weeks away from the very big one, Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury 2. The result is set to map out the heavyweight division in 2025. Welcome back. You're listening to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, we're less than a month away now from Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury 2. I am so happy that this fight has turned around this quick. I remember when Tyson Fury, Gareth, had that draw with Deontay Wilder, and we were all like, okay, let's see that again now. Like, what's going on? We need to see it again now. And then Tyson Fury had to have the Tom Schwartz and Otto Volin fights in between, and it kind of delayed it a bit. Eventually, obviously, we got number 2 and number 3. I'm so happy that there is no delay. Obviously, we've lost the IBF belt, but I don't necessarily care about that. We are still going to get number 1 versus number 2, and it happened straight away. Fingers crossed as we sit here now on the 26th of November. No injuries, no cuts, no sparring stories. We're good to go, and it's going to be another epic one, Gareth. I just know it's going to be.
yeah. And also in the last few days, I don't know if you've seen it. The gloves are off chat they had. It's only 12 minutes long. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have with Bunsey, yeah?
Yeah, with Bonds,
Yep.
it's very good. They both got deep respect for each other. You can really tell that. Usyk gives nothing away. Fury is very honest about his performance. Like you say, everything points to another razor-tight fight. How much how much Fury's got left is going to be one of the factors. He pointed to the fact he had success for 7 rounds and needs to carry it on. I think he's going to be a slightly heavier and more aggressive this time because when he was aggressive, he was successful in the fight. I think he'll step in more against Usyk this time, but that will bring its risks as well. So it's going to be an epic encounter. I mean, they're both brilliant. The belts don't matter anymore for me. This is now the championship of each other. If Fury wins, we get one more at some point to decide the number 1 of the era. If Usyk wins this, he's flatlines for me as the number 1 of the era. That's all on the line.
Yeah. I mean, if Usyk wins, we then have to, and I get my historian friends such as yourself to have a discussion about where Usyk sits as an all-time great, undisputed at cruiserweight, undisputed at heavyweight, beat the man twice back to back. I mean, there's a discussion as to where he sits. On
In
that
the
sort
top
of
5 of all time, in my view.
wow, that's
Yeah,
big.
yeah, in the
That's
top
big.
5 of all time in heavyweights. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really big. That's
But
really
because
big.
look at what he's done. Look at
Is there enough body of work at heavyweight
without question,
to be top 5?
He's beat well, he's in the top 5 most accomplished heavyweights. I think I did that after he beat. I did that a list of that for the Telegraph just after he beat Tyson Fury back in May. And he really does belong up there with the very greatest heavyweight.
Okay, so we're saying Larry Holmes, Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah,
Are you
George
saying
Foreman,
George
George
Foreman,
Foreman,
Evander,
and Evander.
Joe Fraser? You
Yeah,
counting all these people out?
He's up there with all of them. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, no,
Look at
yeah,
what he's done. He's beaten all the big guys. I mean, he's beaten Joshua twice and a better Joshua the second time. Um, he's accomplished everything. Went on the road at cruiserweight and beat everyone in their own backyard. He's the ultimate road warrior. Very few of his fights have been at home in front of his own crowd. Look what he did against Daniel Dubois, and look what Daniel Dubois has become. Like this era, you could still say, all right, maybe he needs to fight a Joseph Parker and maybe still needs to fight a Martin Bakole. But I think he's proved against the big guys. If he beats Fury convincingly this second time, then I think he goes up there and he stays there, as one of
yeah,
the all-time greats, in the
yeah,
top 10, certainly.
yeah. And for those that argue about the point you just made about the Bacolis and the Joseph Parkers, and look, there could be an argument there, but what Usyk has done is said, okay, give me number 1 and 2 now. So I'll jump the queue and just give me the best. I don't want to go through 6, 7, 8. I want to fight number 1 and 2. AJ at the time, number 1 and 2, and you're right, he's beaten them both. So
And the young pretender in
there is a good
Dubois,
argument.
a dangerous exocet missile that he is.
Mm.
So I think, and also, Usyk's now, I think, 37.
37, 38 in January.
Doesn't need to keep going. Doesn't he's served his time. For me, he's got 2 fights, potentially 3 fights left, and that's it. If he loses to Fury, he'll fight him again, and then maybe there's another. I don't know whether he wants to fight Dubois again. Does he want to fight Joshua again? Who knows?
There
But
has been some talk, and I think this is silly talk, just because Usyk's now walking around as a heavyweight and he's quite muscular. He's not a fat heavyweight. But there's been this talk about Usyk coming back down to cruiserweight for a tear up with Beterbiev coming up or Jaya Pataya. Okay. You say that, yeah. If I
money,
were to offer you,
money.
tomorrow, so Usyk's beaten Fury. Play this game with me, Gareth. And I
Okay.
say, okay, Gareth, what fight would you be more interested in watching? Not for legacy, just watching.
Yeah.
Usyk Bakole or Usyk Beterbiev coming up. What would you say? What would you if you could watch one on
Oh.
TV, which one are you watching?
Oh. Oh. Oh, that's a hard choice. I think he's too big for
He
Beterbiev.
is, isn't he? He is. He is. He's a bit too
But the
big.
Bakole fight. See, we say Bakole, and I want to see his footwork against Bakole. I think he beats Bakole handily.
Yeah, he's just too. His footwork's just a
But
bit too much for
but,
Bakole, I think.
but the muscle memory of the Olympic fights with Beterbiev as well. I just think Usyk's now been able to really grow into being a big guy. I mean, Beterbiev is at most going to be a 200-pound fighter, and Usyk's going to be. I can't see him squeezing back down,
No.
losing a stone again because he's obviously put that weight on. They're never the same fighters when they go up. It's a great thought, though. They're great, great, great thought.
And this is, as you know, this is what Turkey thinks like. His Excellency thinks things like this.
Yeah,
Okay, how can I make the most special, spectacular event? And I do wonder what Usyk does. Look, I personally think. Sorry, go on, go.
I was gonna say there's and I want to throw something at you. My belief is, and I knew I was right in think. Well, certainly I'm glad they're doing it. Anthony Joshua not going back into the rematch with Daniel Dubois. I'm waiting to see the outcome of Fury Usyk or Usyk Fury 2. It wouldn't surprise me if Fury does beat Usyk
Mhm.
to see him fight Joshua in between fighting Usyk again in the trilogy.
Oh, okay.
That wouldn't surprise me if that fight happens.
Yeah, I mean, for AJ to sit it out now, and that's
Yeah.
now all but confirmed. They're waiting on that, aren't they? They're banking on, because look, if Usyk wins, but okay, I'm gonna throw this back at you. What if Fury loses?
Oh,
Do
instead it's Joshua in
oh, okay, is it? Is
2025
it?
in the
Okay,
UK. Yeah, I
okay,
mean,
cool.
if we have Eubank and Benn and Fury and Joshua in the UK in 2025, and we have those 2 fights 4 times,
Mm.
it'd be amazing. But I've got a feeling Fury's going to do it in the second fight.
Oh,
I think
okay, this is
I think
interesting.
he's got the bit. I mean, we haven't come to that yet, have we?
No.
It's our early look at.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I'm leaving for the Middle East next week. I'm doing an extra long sojourn there, but I really do think Fury's not messing around at all this time, and he's got the bit between his teeth. I think it's going to be almighty close again, and he might be clinging on for dear life to win on points. But I just think he's going to leave it all in there. He's a special guy, very, very special guy, and it was a very close, brutal fight first time round. And the takeaway from the sit down of them the other day was Usyk not admitting he was hurt at all in that fight, and he was hurt in that
Oh,
fight.
he was hurt several
But you
times.
see him not admitting it. I
Yeah,
loved it.
he can't.
Like,
It's
he's so
almost like I
stoical,
can't
wasn't he?
give you anything,
No,
Tyson.
he gives you
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, look, me and you were ringside for the first one. It's probably the best fight I've ever been ringside for in my
Yeah.
life. And
Mm.
those first 6 or 7 rounds, people have critiqued me for saying I'm a Tyson Fury fanboy, which is quite strange. I've never been called that before. And I'm like, no, Fury is having so much success in those first 6, 7 rounds.
He's beating him up.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
beating him up.
So he's going to take some courage for that. I go the other way though. I go Usyk to get it done again. I do. I go Usyk to get it done again in a razor thin fight. Usyk now knows he can hurt Fury. I don't think he went into the first fight thinking he could sort of slay the Goliath, the giant, and now he knows that he can hurt him. And now Fury knows, more importantly, that Usyk can hurt him as well. So I think both will be a bit more cautious, but I think we've got something epic. I really do. I think we've got something epic.
But I think the actual fight conditioning of Fury will be better this time.
Needs to
He,
be. Needs to be.
he had breaks last time. He had that press conference in Morecambe for us. He appeared somewhere
What
else.
was that about again? Why was we there again? I can't even remember. Why did
Well,
we have
because we felt we needed to see Tyson
Oh
Fury
yeah.
before he disappeared to Riyadh.
Oh.
He's not being disturbed in Malta this time, where he is. He's training there. He's he hasn't got a cut eye that he's dealing with going into it. His whole fight conditioning will be better this time. And like you, and I've been pilloried. I'm always called a Fury fanboy, but
I've never been called it, Gareth. It was so weird. I'm an
yeah,
AJ fanboy. The Fury
yeah.
one was weird.
But I'm an AJ detractor if I say he fluffed his lines against Dubois. It's the way of the world now. Everything's divisive. You know, you can't have an opinion one way or the other. You can't navigate your way through it anymore. You just got to accept people feeling that you're biased. But I'm not biased in the slightest. Fury was dominant for the first 7 rounds, apart from maybe the first round, and was look. I remember it might have been Kugan Cassius of IFL TV was sitting near me. I said, I think he's going to stop Usyk in a minute. He's going to hurt him and stop him after 7 rounds. But Usyk is the master finisher. I agree with you. I think we're in for an epic encounter. I think Fury will be better this time. It's just what legs he's got left in him after a long career, and what that ballooning 10 stone over the weight he should be has perhaps taken out of him. But listen, we're in for a very, very special week in Saudi Arabia because look, the Gypsy King will be there, the alter ego. Oleksandr Usyk will call on Ivan Serko, the Cossack warrior that he feels lives inside him. And you know, it's going to be amazing, and the fans will travel. It's Christmas time for us, and it will be awesome. And we're so privileged to be in this era. It's such a pleasure. It really is to be talking about these things and have all these things happening, and that we as two individuals who have a passion and a love for fight sports, we get to smell and scent and sniff everything up close. And it's such a privilege because we'll miss these guys when they're gone, and they're not 2 or 3 fights away from. They're not more than 2 or 3 fights away from us saying sayonara. You know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, and you can chuck AJ into that equation.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wilder is kind of in and out. So yeah, you're right. That era is coming to an end. It might come to an end come December 21st. Who knows? Everyone could walk away and say sayonara. Enough's enough. So make sure you tune in December 21st for another epic heavyweight showdown. All right, you're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Next up, we're going to go to smaller guys. We're going to be talking what's happening on Saturday as Galal Yafai takes on Sonny Edwards. Welcome back. You're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, we have a domestic dust-up that we've been wanting and asking for, I'd say, about 12 to 18 months. coming up this Saturday in Birmingham. Sonny Edwards, former IBF world champion, takes on Olympic gold medalist Galal Yafai. The Edwards versus Yafai brothers finally meet in a professional ring. Remember, we were supposed to get Charlie Edwards versus Cal Yafai. That fight didn't happen. And I think this is good, Gareth, that we're getting a nice domestic one. Obviously, look, Matchroom haven't done as many domestic shows this year as they did last year. A lot of focus has been on Riyadh season. A lot of focus has been on fights in America for Matchroom. And it's good that we're getting this one because nothing's bigger. And I've said this, and I think we saw this with AJ Dubois. Nothing's bigger than a domestic dust up. Like it's the backbone of the sport. It's what grows the sport. It's the reason why we're in this sport because we grew up watching some of the biggest domestic dust ups. And I feel like it's almost been forgotten a little bit. So it's good to have this one.
Yeah, it's a really, really good fight. It's worthy of a world title fight. I think it's an interim, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
being classified as WBC, if I'm right in thinking. It's equivalent to it's a rightful, well, it's a championship of each other, bragging rights, but it's worthy of a world title. It's world level. Galal has stuttered and stumbled a little bit since winning Olympic gold 3 years ago, but I love his style, counter-punching, aggressive southpaw, which is that style that Terence Crawford employs and Usyk employs and Vasyl Lomachenko, Errol Spence and others. So it's all about who employs the better. It's a clash of styles. The will-o'-the-wisp Sonny Edwards, who can hit and not be hit. Will that style win out? Will he have to stand and bang with Galal? All their massive amounts of sparring was 5 years ago or more. Sonny believes he had the upper hand in all of those. So, and he's a great talker and he's a great salesman of a fight, but he may just have had his time. And this might be Galal's time to rise. So it's up to Galal to prove that he has it in him to be world level as well as an Olympian. He's got an aggressive style, as I say. He's going to try and pin Sonny. He may not lay a glove on him. You just never know. But it's very intriguing. It's one that you're salivating to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very much the bull versus the matador here. Galal
Yeah.
definitely taking the title of the bull, who's going to come sort of on the front foot, rushing in as he does, aggressive punches and bunches. And as you mentioned, Sonny's the hit and not get hit type, right? I mean, he can fight on the back foot and he's happy to make you miss and then make you pay. I think Sonny's going to take a lot from the Baron Rodriguez fight here. And if there is something left in the tank, which I think there is with Sonny, then I think that Bam Rodriguez fight is going to hold him in good stead just because Bam fights like that as well. On the front foot, aggressive. He's bigger than Sonny. And as good as Galal is, he's certainly no Bam Rodriguez, who's pound for pound top 4, top 5 right now. So I think Sonny can take a lot from that, the experience of being a world champion, having more higher profile fights than Galal as a pro anyway, at least. So honestly, this could be, and this might sound a bit crazy to people because Galal is so good. Sonny could win this like quite comfortably if he doesn't.
Oh yeah, he might
like,
completely outbox him. I get you.
Yes.
But and then again, he might frustrate Galal all night.
Could happen, right?
And do what he did when he first won the world title, which is shtick and move, jab and move, frustrate his opponent, leave Galal hitting air the whole time. I completely see what you're saying. I completely see as well that happening. But there's something special about Galal as well. He's the best of the 3 boxing brothers. And it's up to him to prove that he can walk Sonny down and put it on him and make him fight at some point. That's what's so fascinating, as you say, about this. Can the bull pin the matador? Can he? In a way, it's an upset if he wins.
If Galal wins.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it will be. And I again, it's a great fight for that region of boxing. We've been trying to sort of find the next superstar, Ben Whitaker, in and around that Birmingham area. We've had the Galal, we've had the Galal brothers, the Yafai brothers there as well. Tyler Denny from that area. So I think it will be an upset if Galal wins, but it will be really, really good. On Sonny, very quickly, we know Sonny's the enigma, right? Says what he wants to say, and no one can shut him up. He's no longer with Grant Smith. He started this training camp by himself. I don't even know if he has a trainer, if I'm honest with you. As much as That can't be good, can it? Like you start in training camp without a trainer.
Well, no, it's not good, but it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. It's
Yeah,
not like he's not gonna. I'm not sure who it is. He will have a trainer. There's no
yeah,
question
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. I can't remember who it was now, but I think there is. Is it another Smith he's working with?
Okay, we'll find
Um,
out. Yep.
I think. But what I'm fascinated by this week, as the week goes on, is how much mentally he's going to get stuck into Galal.
Oh
You
man,
know, how he's going to, because he does think differently to others. He does espouse different theories about things. You know, he might start telling us that the planets are aligned for him to win this, and that he's an interplanetary alien stepping in there on Saturday night, and he's going to UFO Galal Yafai.
just been informed, Gareth, that he's training with Chris Williams. Is
Oh, with
taking him to
Chris
this fight.
Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
He had mentioned a trainer. Sorry, not Smith, Williams, yeah.
Mm.
And I don't know a lot about how they're going to go about it, but I do imagine that he's going to do that jab and move, hit and move.
That's what he does.
Because no one could lay a glove on him till he fought Bam Rodriguez, if you recall. He barely took a punch. And he will have learned from that fight, as you rightly pointed out earlier, that he doesn't want to be static for too long and he doesn't want to do that early. That's how Galal wins most of his fights, draws people into a fight and then counterpunches them. And it may just not work against Sonny. I've gone for Galal, by the way. I just feel that Galal might have something special, and this may be his moment. But it wouldn't surprise me if I'm completely wrong, as you've pointed out, that Sonny could just completely outbox him.
Completely. Could do it very, very easily as well. All right, very quickly, as we wrap up this card, obviously some good fights on the card as well. Cameron Vong on this card. Callum Smith on this card. It was announced last week that Callum Smith will return, and I've always wondered if he would or wouldn't. Obviously, look, the last time we saw Callum Smith was that performance against Artur Beterbiev in Canada, where a lot
I
of
was
people gave
there. I
Callum,
was there. I
yeah,
remember it.
a lot of people gave Callum a good chance, and Beterbiev
Yeah.
just shut that down
Mm,
completely from the very first round. He
mm.
is back. I think he's a great addition domestically, at least in the light heavyweight division. I think there's some really, really good fights out there for him. Interesting. Oh, wait, no. Are you surprised he's back?
No, and if he looks good, if this Yard Boatsi fight doesn't materialize, he's a great opponent for either of those two,
Mm,
whoever can get hold of him first. Obviously, we know that um, Anthony Yard and Joshua Boatsi is being lined up, but come on, guys, let's get that fight, please, because we
yeah,
all want to see it. But
yeah.
Callum is an option there for either of those guys. I'd like to see him win on Saturday night and then go into fights with both of those two guys.
Yeah, it's going to be no waiting, is there? I mean, no messing
No,
around. He's been a world champion at super middleweight. Once you've fought at that high level, you don't want to muck around at the level that he's going
he's
to
been the
fight on
number
Saturday.
one at
Yeah,
super middleweight.
yeah.
Remember,
Ring
the number
recognized number
one.
one. You are correct. Ring
Yeah,
recognized number one at
yeah.
super middleweight. So, yeah, we'll see. All right, you're listening to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Up next, we're going to talk Matchroom's newest recruit, Pat Brown, and we're going to round up the rest of the news as well from the boxing world. Welcome back to Fight Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, let's round up what's been, I think, a very, very good show. Let's talk Pat Brown, Olympian, signed by Matchroom. Matchroom did this big sort of announcement reveal all week. Big announcement reveal, like we're signing someone. And I was like, oh my God, who is it? I was very much like, okay, who is this? I reached out to Matchroom, to Alex Haynes, who works for Matchroom, reached out to Fred Met. I was like, okay, who is this? Because you guys have got me super excited by now. Everyone was like, okay, who could it be? And this isn't no disrespect to Pat Brown, who, look, you're an Olympian, you're obviously a very good amateur, and you could go on to do great things. But they made it sound like they're signing the second coming of Muhammad Ali. And I was like, okay, like, why have you done this? Why have you done this to Pat Brown? But look, obviously, he's someone that's thought very highly in the Manchester area, that there is hope that he can go on and do good things, hopes that he can put a lot of bums on seats. But yeah, maybe just announce it like the way you announced the link up with George Campbell. Just announce it. Just put a post up and we're fine. All this big announcement thing, I just felt like was maybe not needed.
Well, look, I think the key with Pat Brown is that he's a big, aggressive, heavy punching heavyweight, isn't he? That's the point. Um, and they're very excited about him. They wanted to make a big thing of it. They wanted him to be in his hometown for his first press conference.
Mm.
They wanted to make. He's from Sale. He's 25 years old. Um, he didn't go well in the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. He was beaten by Poland's Mateusz Berezniki. So he didn't really qualify there. Sorry, he defeated Poland's
Yeah, he
Berezniki to
won. He
get to
won.
the Olympics.
Yeah.
Then he lost in the first round in the Olympics against Marley Machado from Brazil, who actually went on to, or actually was a silver medalist in the World Championship. So he was beaten by someone decent. He's a very aggressive. I watched clips of him. He's a very, very aggressive fighter. Um, and they believe that, like you say, he's the second coming of Muhammad Ali.
No, maybe that's what they believe.
But
Maybe
maybe
that's what
that
they.
is what they believe. But you know, he's handsome. He's got a personality,
Yeah.
and he punches heavily. So expect the gravy train to be following him for a while, and probably to have 10 fights in his first year. He's going to be out every month. There's 185 DAZN cards, I'm told, next year with different promoters. So
Wow.
maybe he's going to be on 20 of them and break Mike Tyson's 19 fights in his first year or something. Expect something fancy and snazzy from them. I mean, I didn't hear any great headlines from it yesterday, other than this is the new kid. Brown is coming to get gold. Simple as that. You know.
Yeah, and look, I mean that Manchester area has been pretty quiet since Anthony Crolla retired. It was always a buzzing boxing scene. He's going to be trained by Jamie Moore, who's always doing good numbers in Manchester. Obviously, we haven't had anything like Ricky Hatton um, since Ricky Hatton, so they'll be hoping that he can sort of reignite that scene alongside the likes of Jack Cattrall, who is now obviously becoming a pretty big draw himself as well. So, look, good luck to them. Good luck to Sam Jones, who manages him, and let's hope, because I say this as a British boxing fan, let's hope that he is as good as they think he is on both sides in terms of selling fights and fighting, because it just means we're going to get some good nights in British boxing, and that's what we all want. Very quickly on Chris Billam-Smith, obviously look, lost to Zerdo, says he wants to sort of return at world level. There has been some talk about Yard moving up, by the way, to fight him, but he wants to go straight in at world level at cruiserweight. The WBC champion, Mikalayan, apologies, is out there, although he is having issues at the moment with Don King, surprise, surprise, who is his promoter. So that belt could become vacant, and it could be a case of Chris goes straight in and fights for a vacant belt.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mauricio Suleiman, president of the WBC, is on record as saying this guy deserves a high ranking. He's beaten Richard Riakporhe, who's at 6. So, you know, he deserves a decent ranking. The problem he's got is if Noel Mikelian, who's the holder of the belt at the moment, with Badu Jack, the champion in recess with the WBC, you don't really want CBS, Chris Billam-Smith, because he's tough as old boots and he'll keep coming at you for 12 rounds. So if it's a voluntary, that's a tough old fight for Mikelian. But, you know, Chris really did put everything into that fight with Zerdo Ramirez, as we spoke about last week, and came up short against a guy who just had a gear extra from him. But if he gets another opportunity to fight for a world title, or at least world level he should be fighting at, then good luck to him.
Yeah. Final one before we wrap. And Dillian White is back. He's going to fight in Gibraltar. Obviously, we haven't seen Dillian White since he fought Christian Hamer back in March. And the idea was, okay, you beat Christian Hamer, you now stay busy. And he hasn't stayed busy. He's now fighting again. He's fighting Ebenezer Tete, I believe, the Ghanaian who Daniel Dubois fought, I think, way back in 2019 and stopped in the first round. I'm happy that Dillian White is back, but Ebenezer Tete is an awful opponent. He's he's so bad. He's so bad. So this should hopefully be a quick 2-3 round blowout for Dillian White, and then we can see him back again straight away. Like honestly, turn this around straight away,
Yeah,
Dillian, and go again in February, go or March. Just stay busy now.
And go against Anthony Joshua maybe, because that's a viable opponent for him.
Mm.
That fight would sell.
Deontay Wilder, maybe.
Or Deontay Wilder. I think Joshua should fight Deontay Wilder as well, by the way, which I've been crowing about for ages as well, just to get Deontay back. But yeah, it's good to see Dillian back. He's
Mm.
ridden out the storm around him. Obviously, we were about to see him against Anthony Joshua until Robert Helenius stepped in, who then tested retrospectively positive for a banned substance. Was it clomiphene again?
I think it might have been the famous old
I think it
clomiphene. Yeah.
was clomiphene
Yeah.
to bring it up on this show. Exactly, as I should say, as we finish off. And yeah, good to see him back. And like you say, don't give it the curse the commentator that it needs to be a 2 or 3 round blowout, because then it'll bloody go 10 rounds.
Oh no.
But then of course also we're getting in the new year, we're getting Derek Chisora and Gerald Miller up at the I think that's in Manchester, isn't it? At the
I think
Co-op Live.
Manchester at the Co-op
Co-op
Live.
Live.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
no doubt Pat Brown will be on that. Oh no, that's a Frank Warren card, I think, because I think Derek's with Frank Warren. But look, it's all happening. Quite soon, you and I are going to be recording our highlights of the year and our fight of the year. Maybe we need to.
I think we should do that from a studio, talkSPORT studio. I think we sum up the whole
we
year.
make it a 9-hour show. Yeah.
Yeah. If the producers and the hierarchy are listening, just put up a bit more coffers and we'll come into the studio.
Yeah, my only day available by before Christmas is going to be the 24th of in the afternoon, 24th, Christmas Eve. I can do a 4-hour show with you if you want.
We'll see if there's any more money available for us to go an extra 3 hours. All right, you've been listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Remember, if you've missed any of the show, you can listen to it as a podcast. You can find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts from. We will be back next week.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.